Hello Sunday people, how's it going? This week we are taking on the Aussie Kiwi classic, the Anzac biscuit, and we are leveling it up a notch. We are making these classic chewy, crispy, crunchy biscuits, but we are making it a touch more fancy. We're adding Crème Pâtissière that's flavored with coconut, and we're making a gorgeous praline crisp. So if you've ever wanted to dress up a classic, then this is the recipe for you. Stick with me and I'll show you step by step how to make these gorgeous, fancy Anzac cookies. We all love a classic Anzac biscuit, but today we're making them even better. We're adding a bit of coconut crème pâtissière, a little bit of praline, and these gorgeous cookies are crisp and delicious. So let's get into this. Here are all the ingredients we're gonna need. I know it looks like a lot, but we are making a few different things. So the first thing we're gonna do is make the crème pâtissière, because we need that to set a little bit and get cold so that we can finish it off and pipe it. Then we're gonna make the biscuits and we're gonna make the praline. So if you're not gonna make the additional bits and you just wanna learn how to make Anzac cookies, skip forward to that. The timestamp's down below, so click on there and head on to it. But if you wanna learn how to make all the other stuff, stick around. Also, if you're looking for the recipe, it's on my website. So that is that. Let's get together the stuff that we need to make the crème pâtissière and get it on. That will be our first job in the list of things that we need to do because it takes the longest and it's got a cool. So let's do it. Okay, the crème pâtissière. This is an absolute classic French technique which you will find in loads of patisseries. So, you know, usually it's often the filling to maybe eclairs or pipes between a millefeuille, or, you know, it's a real classic French technique. I learned this a long time ago when I was working in kitchens, and it's something that's simple to do but really effective. So what we're going to do is differ slightly from the ordinary. We are adding coconut milk and half milk instead of it being full milk. So we get that little coconutty hint, which then is reflected in the Anzac cookie itself. So what we need to do first of all, I've got my sugar in here, and I also need to add into it 25 grams of golden syrup. Again, a little note back to the Anzac cookie. So we haven't just got full sugar, but we've got a little bit of that golden syrupy taste too. So I'm gonna add that into here, but obviously be careful when you add it in because it's very runny and you can't take it away that easily. Wonderful. And then I've got here my milk and my coconut cream. So this I'm gonna put into a pan. Make sure you get it all out of the jug because obviously that coconut cream is a little bit thicker so it sticks. And then this will pop on the stove and start warming it up while we just do the last little bit to this so that we can get it all ready to go. So to here, we take a bowl and we just need to add the 2 egg yolks to our sugars. So keep the whites for something else. Or so we just want the yolks. What an absolute mess I made of that, but whatever. Maybe it's because I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but that's okay. Life goes on. Hopefully a bit more luck with this one. Great. Yolk in. The other little bit, which is the corn flour and the regular flour. So we're going to add this in too. And then with a whisk, we're just going to whisk this all together. So we get this thick mixture with everything. Now, we need to temper the eggs. So basically, I think it's going to be one of them days today. So we need to temper the eggs. So basically what that means is we use the hot liquid very slowly, little by little, and we add it to the egg because this way it warms it up gradually. And so what it means is that you don't get scrambled eggs. So I can hear the milk is just coming up to the boil. I just heard a little. So as you can see, there's steam coming off of that milk, which means it's hot enough because we are actually going to return this all to the pan and cook it there anyway. So we add a little tiny bit and we whisk it in. And we add a little tiny bit. And we add a little bit more. And we whisk it in. And we add the last bit. And it's done. And now the egg mixture gets poured back into the pan. And now we take the pan to the stove and we slowly heat this until it thickens up. You'll see when it starts to change, just keep moving your spatula back and forward so that nothing sticks to the bottom of the pan. and also wash your bowl that you just made that mix in so that we can pass it back through the sieve and into the bowl. And that is your Crème Pâtissière done. As you can see there, it thickens up pretty quick. And all you want to do is make sure that when you taste it, that there's no floury taste left over. Kind of like when you're making a white sauce, it's the same kind of taste that you'll get of the flour, so you'll know when it is finished. And then I just take a little piece of cling film and we're just going to sit it directly on top of that Crème Pâtissière. Make sure that there are no air bubbles because we don't want a skin to form on that lovely stuff we've just passed, because otherwise we'll end up with more lumps. And that is that bit completed. I've turned the oven on to 180 degrees. It's time for the cookies. I mean, Crème Pâtissière, fast, efficient, quick. Do it first, let it chill. Get the cookies on now. By the time they've baked, cool down, Creme Pat, ready to go. And then we're just gonna make a praline. One thing that's really important in the kitchen is timing. Like making sure that you get the things done at the right time so that they can all come together at the end and you're not waiting for anything. In here, we've got our dedicated coconut, as it used to always be written on one of our order sheets when I worked in London. Someone had made a spelling mistake, but I can never say desiccated coconut without thinking about dedicated coconut. So we've got some dedicated coconut. We've got 45 grams of rolled oats, 75 grams of plain flour, 110 grams of brown sugar, soft brown sugar, and 30 grams of dedicated coconut. And in the pan, I've got 65 grams of butter, tablespoon of golden syrup. We're gonna add a tablespoon of boiling water and then 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda when we cook it. We're gonna add that tablespoon of hot water. We'll add this to the stove, low temp, let the butter melt, and then we're just gonna add in that 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, mix this all together, and that's it. I am actually also gonna add a good pinch of salt because these are very sweet cookies. And it's nice to have that little sweet, that little saltiness in there too. There's my little 1/4 of a teaspoon of bicarb. We'll mix these ingredients together so that they're all ready to go for when the stuff is melted. If you have a big lump of sugar, just, you know, smush it out a little bit. So once your butter and your golden syrup have melted, add in that bicarb and you'll see it goes all foamy like this. We're just gonna let it cool down for a minute before we add it to our mix. Just get rid of them last few lumps. And what this actually does when you're adding that bicarb to there is give Anzac cookies their kind of chewy texture, which they are famed for. These are just such a simple cookie to make. They take no time at all. And even if you're not doing all the other bits, this is an absolute banger of a biscuit. So now we're gonna add this to our dry. Mix that all together. You can actually even go in with your hands so that all of that stuff is fully hydrated. And this is where you end up with this kind of dough. But we're gonna do it slightly different. We're not gonna have round cookies. I'm gonna put it onto a tray and we're gonna cut it into squares so that we can just have a slightly different cookie. So the best way to do this is take your cookie mix, squash it into your pile, put your piece of greaseproof on top, and then we're gonna roll this out into a square. And a good idea is to just take the top off every now and again and just squish it to make sure you're not losing too much on the edge. And then slide it onto your tray. And then we're gonna cut it on here. And there they are. All the crumbly bits kept, which we're gonna sprinkle all over the top. The cookies are ready to go. So now let's just bake them and I'll see you in about 10 or 12 minutes. All right, now for the very last thing, the praline. The cookies, they are out. They were in for about 9.5, 10 minutes, but you do need to keep an eye on them. And especially like with my oven, back corner cooks very quick. And what's really nice about this cookie is when you take it out of the oven, it's still a little bit pliable. So you can just kind of squish it slightly into the shape you want, or maybe cut off any bits where it's, you know, not ideal, or you'd like a straighter edge. Fantastic. And the best thing is about that is you end up with some cookie crumbles. Yum. So you can eat these while you're doing your other bits. But what's really great with the taste of these is that little bit of salt. It really balances out what is quite a sweet cookie into something really delicious. You can either make the praline, so we can make these beautiful shards for on top, or if you wanted, you could just use these bits of cookie crumble to add on the top as your decoration, but I just like something slightly different. In here I've got 75 grams of sugar, and I've got 1/2 tablespoon of oats and 1/2 tablespoon of dedicated coconut. And then I'm just gonna add a pinch of salt to this. and we're going to make the praline. So what we're going to do is take this sugar to the stove. You want to make sure that you get a nice even layer, and we just need to melt this sugar so that it doesn't crystallize. And once it's melted into its liquid form, we can turn it up a little bit. What we're going to do is cook this for 1 or 2 minutes. We're going to chuck in that coconut and oats so they get one minute or so in there, and then we're just going to pour it onto a sheet of greaseproof paper and let it cool down for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then during that time, we'll just get our last bit of prep done, which is just finishing off the creme pâtissière. And then these bad boys are ready to eat. So let's get to that. All right, caramel done, cookies done, cool. Now we just need to finish off the creme pat so that we can decorate these. This is the caramel here. As you saw there in the pan, you just need to take it to a nice golden color, but you do want to be careful because caramel carries on cooking once you tip it out of the pan. So you don't want it to get too dark because otherwise it will burn. But then here is our lovely shards. Oh my God, crisp, wonderful, fantastic. Let's just get this last bit done and then we can assemble this all together. So I've got a ½ cup measure and I'm going to use half of that ½ cup is going to be double cream. Oh, maybe we'll just finish that off because there's not much left in there. And then we're going to use a little bit more of that coconut cream to fill it up. So we'll add that to the bowl and we're just going to whisk it to stiff peaks. Okay, cream is whipped, and here is the creme pat. So as you can see, you know, it's firm. Tastes delicious though. So what we're going to do is just fold a little bit of this cream into this creme pat to ever so slightly soften it. So what I like to do first of all is take the creme pat and just slightly soften it all up, and then we'll take a little of the cream, and again, like many things, don't add too much because you can't take it away once you've put it in there. Just do a little by little, add that in. And as you can see, it just starts to lighten it up and not make it so dense. So add a touch more of that cream, and that is it. You don't want to go too soft because you still need this to fully hold its shape when you pipe it. So now that's all added together, we can finish off these Anzac cookies. Great chef tip, fold it over your hands like this so you don't get it all on the outside of the piping bag, but it only goes in, and then you can fold the edges up so that you don't have a big mess, and just shake it down. And there is your creme pat. We're going to line up these cookies, and now it's time to decorate and make these cookies look cute. You can take a few of them cookie crumbs that were on the side of the tray. And then finally, you can take some shards of that praline. And there they are, all decorated, looking cute. And all we've got to do now is test them. And today, I've got a special guest because he's not feeling well. So let's get him in. Brownie!
Oh, shit.
Here he is. So for the sick boy Brownie, he's got a lovely little cookie. Give that a taste and let me know how it is. Yum?
Yum. Yum.
And that's all we've got time for this week. So I'm going to have mine. We're going to put the kettle on. We're going to cheers to a biscuit and feeling better. We'll see you guys next week. And if you've liked this video, let me know in the comment section down below. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.